Man and the stages of consciousness in ancient Egypt. There were many manifestations expressing the Egyptian civilization at the height of its glory, and he was at the forefront of these manifestations. The ancient Egyptian deities that expressed their social and natural existence, which were among the aspects of this life with all its momentum, harmony, and prosperity. The number of deities in the ancient Egyptian civilization exceeded 1,000 deities that represented different aspects of life, such as growth, the sun, fertility, the arts, life, and death, and others. In addition to that, many ancient Egyptian texts mention the names of some deities without referring to their character or role. The Gate takes you during the holy month on a tour of the ancient history of Egypt, when most of the countries of the world slept in the open, and ate from traveling in desert paths, and the sky covered them. Egypt was a striking force on all levels, as Egypt was the first country on earth to know God and His unity and His worship, and even made every power latent in nature or in Egyptian life a symbol that expresses it. From aspects of life, and in today's episode we will talk about the Four Sons of Horus. Hapi, Imsti, Duamotif, and Kabazanov are the sons of Horus, who guard Osiris during his embalming, and then guard the four bowel vessels, the canopic vessels, and they represent the four corners of the world. His body shows male and female gender features at the same time, so the features of masculinity appear in the muscles of his legs and arms, which symbolizes the fertility of the flood, and the features of femininity appear in the chest and abdomen, and they symbolize the land that has been fertilized by the waters of the flood, as he was the master of the river, which brings growth, and the master of swamp fish and birds, which symbolizes that he granted the Egyptians these creatures with the Nile itself, and therefore he was depicted in the temples carrying offerings as offerings to the gods, and Hapi was often embodied on the throne, and he linked the lotus flower and the papyrus plant with the symbol of unity, and this symbolizes his role in unifying the northern and southern part of the country, and Hapi lived in the cave from which the Nile flood came out, and no special temple was established for the Lord Hapi. As for Imsti, it is with a human head, it is the spirit that protects the liver, and Dumamuf is with the head of a jackal, responsible for guarding the stomach, and finally the jackal, or the baboon, or the falcon and the human being, and the canopic vessels carried covers with the heads of the four sons of the idol Horus, those whose duty was to protect the internal organs of the deceased, and they are the idol Imesti, with a human head, is the spirit that protects the liver, and Hapi, with the head of a baboon, responsible for the lungs, and Duamatv, with the head of a jackal, responsible for guarding the stomach, and Kabasnov, headed by Sakru, is responsible for protecting the intestines. Many sources talked about the origins of the four sons of Horus, and the texts conflicted about determining their lineage. The texts of the pyramids mention that their father is Hor Alakamimi Horksum, while the texts of the coffins indicate that their father is Hor the Great, and their mother was Isis. As for the Book of the Dead, it refers to the sons of Horus were their father Hor and their mother is Isis. The sons of Horus appeared in the Old Kingdom until the end of the Second Intermediate Period, and were depicted with human heads, although a few canopic vessels from the Middle Kingdom depicted all four sons of Horus with hawks' heads, and with the beginning of the New Kingdom another form prevailed, but without completely overshadowing the old form. For covers with human heads, the heads of male deities were replaced by animal heads, and in the period between the beginning of the 18th dynasty and the middle of the 19th dynasty, each of the four sons of Horus took his distinctive animal form, so he became in his old human form, Hapi with the head of a monkey, and Duamat with the head of a jackal, and the ugliness of Snof with the head of a falcon. Preserving the body of the dead was another condition for life after death. There are four vessels in which the bowels of the dead are preserved, each of which was under the protection of one of the four sons of Horus, whose first mention came in the texts of the pyramids, which are considered the oldest religious texts recorded in ancient Egypt. Shamso-Aur, followers of the enlightened, recovery centers, Trabi, meditation center, healer emotion. Even Horus. Horus Samada. Horus Nefertum. Horus hailed. Horus chirped. Brilliant Horus. Horus Khonsu. Horus hated the baby Horus. Horus Sama sheltered the founder of the Horus family, the powerful Horus. Horus Nefertumbe, son of Sekhmet Enta. Then to the top at the Dendera temple and the Abydos temple of Horus, Ahai Horus love, peace, joy, and the heart. Then, to the top, we find Horus and Get, who Thoth completed his sample after the war with Set, to become an accomplished Horus. Then, to the top, we find Horus, the mother of a sister, to symbolize the Sphinx and become Horus, who hovered on the horizon. The four earth elements in ancient Egypt were water, air, fire, and earth. And her relationship with the four sons of Horus. The ancient Egyptians named four deities after the sons of Horus, and they are Amsti and Hapi. And they mourned the death of F, and the ugliness of snow F, and considered them to be the origins of the stars of the sky, and mentioned them. Pyramid texts from the Old Kingdom as lamps helping the dead on their way to me. The sky, and the Egyptians also considered them deities symbolizing the four pillars of the world. My love. It symbolizes the north. Amsti symbolizes the south. Duamut F symbolizes the east. The ugliness of snow F symbolizes the west. Whereas, since the Middle Kingdom, people used to write their names on the corners of the coffin. The four if they were those in charge of guarding the body of Osiris during the process of preparing for its burial. And then the task of preserving the integrity of the bowels of the dead was associated with them, and they became stoppers. The soup utensils are made in the form of the head of these four deities. Texts from the late era talk about the parts that each deity maintains. It has parts that are not physical, but intangible, so he, Amsti, preserves the Ka, i.e. the consort. And, Habi, on the heart, and, Duaman F, on the Baba, meaning the soul, and, ugliness of snow F. Ali Elsa, i.e. the dignified figure of the deceased himself. First, my love. The name of one of the four sons of Horus, who was depicted with the head of a monkey since the New Kingdom. Especially as a cover for one of the canopic vessels, and since Hapi's vessel is associated with the deity. Nephthys, that was one of the four deities who protected the corpse and they were putting it inside the lungs. And where God Hapi represents the north side of the original sides, his name means, hostile. Which may be attributed to the boat in its specific name used in its name, paddle. Perhaps his original name means, two tonsils. And Allah Habi says in the Book of the Dead in chapter 151, I have come to be under your protection, O Osiris, for now I have removed your head and limbs, and struck down your enemies for your sake, making them beneath you. I have restored your head forever. And since modern countries it has been represented as a male with yellow skin, he thus combines the characteristics of a male and a female. God Amsti protects the liver. Under the protection of the goddess Isis, the liver is placed in canopic vessels. Near the sarcophagus, the god Amsti is represented on the south side from the original sides. It seems that his role is to bring the dead body back to life, and Amsti says in the Book of the Dead in the chapter 151, I am your son, Flan, I have come to protect you, I have taken care of your house, according to the orders of Ta. According to the orders of Ra. Third, Duadeth F. One of the four sons of Horus, and he was depicted in the form of a mummy or in the form of a mummy. With the head of a jackal, Ali was guarding the mummified stomach of the dead, which was preserved in the vessels of the viscera with the cover sometimes formed in the form of a deity, and it protected him in his role. This is the goddess name. The stomach is placed in a canopic vessel near the sarcophagus, and the god represents death. F on the east side of the original sides. It seems that his role is to honor the dead person, and the meaning of his name is, who worships his mother. And God says, Dua for the death of FV and the Book of the Dead in chapter 151, I am your beloved son. Horus, Phelan, I have come to protect the son of Osiris, who wants to harm you and put you down. We raise you forever. Fourth, the ugliness of Snow F. One of the four sons of Horus, he was depicted in the form of a mummy once and in the form of a mummy. A mummy with a hawk's head once again, and it was based on guarding the intestines of the mummified dead person, which was kept in containers with guts, the cover of which was shaped like a falcon's head. A tribute to this goddess was stolen, and it was mentioned in various funerary texts since 25 the era of the Old Kingdom until the end of the pharaonic eras. The intestines are placed in canopic vessels near the sarcophagus, and the god Kibite Sinu is represented. F on the west side of the original directions, and the name means the ugliness of Snowfe, the appearance of his brother. And God says the ugliness of Snow F in the Book of the Dead chapter 151, I am the ugliness of Snow F, I came to protect you, Flan, I gathered your bones for you, I gathered your organs for you and returned them to me.